Imagine committing a crime so heinous that even the thought of it chills you to the bone. Now picture the justice system's decision: life in prison. But what if that punishment isn't enough? In this video, we'll dive into some of the most shocking cases where life behind bars just doesn't seem to fit the crime. Number one on my list is Nikolas Cruz. I think you know who he is, especially if you are a Florida resident, but just to shed some light on the gravity of his crimes, let me tell you what he did. In 2018, he committed one of the most horrendous school shootings in American history. He was just 19 years old at the time, and on Valentine's Day he went to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, where he used to be a student before he got expelled, and he murdered 17 people, 14 children, and 3 staff members. Some of you think he didn't deserve the capital punishment as he was clearly troubled. I disagree. A lot of people are troubled. Some have horrible upbringings, childhood trauma, life tragedies that alter their brain chemistry to the point they are no longer able to properly fit in a society. He is not one of those people. He was adopted, yes, but he had parents that took care of him. They provided him with love, support, financial stability, a life that many people can only dream of. There were a lot of school shootings that gave me pause, but this in particular got to me. Cruz chose Valentine's Day to end the lives of innocent teenagers. On several occasions, he shot them, left the area, turned back and shot them once more, again left the area, and then came back to shoot them a third time. He is not your regular criminal. He is a vile person with no heart whatsoever and no trace of humanity left. The only reason he escaped the death penalty was because one of the jurors did not feel comfortable with the death sentence, which at a personal level I can understand. I don't blame that juror for not liking the idea of the death penalty, but the jurors were told from the start that this was a death penalty case, and if anyone did not feel comfortable with it, they should not participate in this specific trial. I mean, before Nikolas Cruz, I was completely against the death penalty, but he changed my mind. He does not deserve to be here while 17 people lost their lives that day in such a horrible manner. This was the first case I did for this YouTube channel, and that's why I even started the channel, because of how much it changed me. In prison, he was saying to other people that now that he did this, he knows what he needs to do next time to end the lives of even more people and get away with it. He has no remorse. If this wasn't a criminal that deserved the death penalty, then who is? Chris Watts. This is a man that murdered his pregnant wife and 2 little girls with his bare hands, all because he had a mistress and wanted to start a new life. He does not deserve to be here.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong.
Shanann Watts was 15 weeks pregnant with baby boy Nico. Bella and Celeste were 4 and 3 years old. Chris Watts waited for his wife to come back from a trip, then he strangled her in the middle of the night. He carried her body to the trunk of his car, took his scarred, crying daughters who were asking, "What's wrong with mommy?" and drove to the petroleum station he was employed at. He buried his wife in a shallow grave and then strangled Bella and Celeste, who were screaming for their lives. They were pushed inside oil tanks and left there by the men that should have kept them safe. When Shanann was eventually found, she had also given birth to Nico. You can imagine just how horrible it was for law enforcement officers that had to dig up Shanann and pull out the bodies of children from oil tanks. Chris Watts had the audacity to try and blame his wife for the little girls' murders. He said she murdered the girls, and he became so desperate that in a fit of rage he ended up murdering her. He took a plea deal to give out the location of the bodies, and he avoided the death penalty. I just hope for the rest of his days he finds no peace, that every time he closes his eyes he sees the faces of his family that loved him so much. I think he does not deserve a single moment without despair, hurt, or shame. Aidan Fucci. I know this is controversial because he is still technically a child. He did not behave like a child when he stabbed 13-year-old Tristan Bailey 114 times in 2021 just because he wanted to know how it felt to end someone's life. He was not a child when he left her alone to die, and he was not a child when he bragged on social media about what he did.
114.
This jar now holds 114 stones, one for each of the 114 stab wounds that my sister had to endure.
He was sentenced to life in prison. He was 14 years old when he planned the murder and carried out the crime without blinking an eye and then gloated about it. This is not a child, this is a monster. I am pretty sure we will be hearing of him in the years that come. He will probably end someone else's life in prison and then he will get the death penalty. Jodi Arias. She was lucky to get life in prison when the jury could not come to an agreement with regards to the death penalty. She brutally murdered her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander. He sustained 27 stab wounds in the shower of his own house, a slit throat, and a gunshot wound to the forehead. All because he didn't want to be with her anymore and she wanted to get revenge. Their relationship was toxic, based more on physical attraction than anything else. Before murdering Travis Alexander, she took pictures of him in the shower. I watched videos of interviews she gave and she had no remorse. She said she did that in self-defense and it's clear that she was lying. Also, I accidentally stumbled upon crime scene photos of the body and it's something I can never forget. It is so obvious that she wanted to make him suffer as much as possible. She had no mercy, none whatsoever. That kind of brutality deserves nothing less than the capital punishment. Tiffany Cole. She was on death row, but then recently she was resentenced to life in prison. Back in 2005, she participated in the horrifying murder of Carol and Reggie Sumner. The couple was buried alive. The mastermind behind the robbing and killing of the two was Michael Jackson, Tiffany Cole's boyfriend. Another two young men were involved in the crime. The thing is, Carol and Reggie Sumner would have never been targeted if it weren't for Tiffany Cole. They were neighbors in South Carolina before the couple moved to Florida. They even sold a car to Cole before they left. Cole went to visit the Sumners with her boyfriend, and that's when they robbed and buried alive Carol and Reggie. I know there is a reluctancy in fully supporting the death penalty when it comes to women. There are over 1,500 people on death row, out of which only around 50 are females. Less than 1% of the executions involve women if you look at the recent years. Most of the death sentences carried out involve men. However, I believe Tiffany Cole had the idea of robbing the Sumners and convinced her boyfriend to take part in the crime. Maybe she did not intend to kill them, but ultimately that's what happened, and it was all because of her ties with the victims. She is the main character in the story, and she absolutely deserved to remain on death row. What do you guys think? Who do you have in mind for this same list? Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.